Don't you just love that cozy feeling you get in the morning on a day like this? But it makes you want to go back to sleep, doesn't it? Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Sri Lanka on MTV Sports. It's the 24th of September 2012 and what a way to start your morning. And let's take a look at some of the headlines for today before we go on to the rest of the show. In the Daily Mirror, on the front page of the Daily Mirror, we have a story about the Bar Association of Sri Lanka condemning the interference with the judiciary. And the president of the Bar Association, President Wijedas Rajapaksa, said yesterday that they had made a unanimous decision to pass a resolution condemning the interference in the Judicial Service Commission and in the judiciary by the executive. And furthermore, this story has been on the headlines for quite a while now, and today's development of the story reads: Court of Inquiry finds Major guilty. The intelligence officer has been found guilty in the Malaka Silva Sega, and also the army commander has been informed of this. The army said yesterday that the Court of Inquiry appointed to investigate the assault on the army intelligence officer by a group of people allegedly led by a son of a prominent politician had been concluded. So there we go. That's a bit about some of the local headline stories. And also, once again, going back to the local elections, in exchange for its support to set up a UPFA administration in the Eastern Province, the SLMC said yesterday it would insist that the government sets up a land commission. So there we go. There's a bit of a rift between the UPFA and the SLMC at the moment. And in the Eastern Provincial Council, they say that they need to set up a land commission in exchange for a UPFA government. And an international story that's been very big in the news all around the world has been the responses received for an anti-Islamic video. And Lanka hits out at anti-Islamic video. The Buddha Sasana and Religious Affairs Ministry yesterday condemned the anti-Islamic video that has been shown in some countries. Now this is a very interesting story in the sense that people are asking, okay, fine, true enough, this is a very insulting video that has been created, but then again, is it just the actions of one irresponsible or just a very small group of irresponsible people that requires the world to trigger out a response in this manner? So there are protests all around the world, and in Sri Lanka as well there were some protests against this, and now the Religious Affairs Ministry yesterday condemned the anti-Islamic video and it has been banned in Sri Lanka. Taking a look at some of the sports news, of course, the T20 World Cup is in full flow, and yesterday's match, Pakistan versus the Kiwis, was a very interesting match. Once again, Saeed Ajmal taking 4 wickets and thereby confirming this irrefutable fact that the spinners have more dominance in the game. So Saeed Ajmal took 4 wickets and as Pakistan kept their nerve to pull off an exciting 13-run win over New Zealand. And the match that's been played today is West Indies versus Ireland. Now Ireland, as we all know, showed some surprise moves in the ODI format as well. But taking a look at today's match, I think West Indies would have the upper hand in terms of experience, in terms of Chris Gayle alone, because he's not just a leader for the team, but he's also a very inspiring figure in the T20 format. He has that ability of just taking on the bowlers and just putting the pressure back on the bowling side every time he walks into that pitch. So it'll be a very interesting match. West Indies versus Ireland, ranked number 8 and ranked number 10 in the T20 arena, battling it out today at the R. Premadasa Stadium. Now for Sri Lanka, Mahela Jayawardene has said that we need to learn from our mistakes, and going forward, Sri Lanka is playing New Zealand in Pallekele next on Thursday, and for a detailed chat about the match, we will have a guest in the studio on Wednesday as well. But going forward, our performance against Zimbabwe was very commendable, but then in Hambantota, it was very disappointing to see that the match was reduced for just 14 overs, and people who went all the way to Hambantota just for 14 overs was very disappointed. But then again, we're through to the groups, through from the group stages rather, and we will be playing New Zealand next on Thursday. Just apart from cricket, in terms of rugby, we've had a very good improvement. 7-7 for Sri Lankan rugby, and the Sri Lankan Sevens rugby team led by Fazil Marja repeated and even improved on their performance at the ongoing HSBC Asian Sevens Series second leg at Shanghai. Now Sri Lanka won the plate by winning the match against Thailand with a score of 22-7. And speaking to Chandrashan Pereira, the head selector of the Sri Lankan rugby as of now, he was saying that we need to really develop on this, and this was a surprise result that we got after we beating Thailand. So, and we also managed to finish off 5th overall in the 10-team competition. Japan and Kazakhstan pulled out of this 12-team event due to security threats, and also we will be looking forward to maybe improving our performance in the third leg of the tournament, which will take place in Mumbai, India on the 13th and 14th of October. Now this is very interesting because Sri Lanka Sevens is more or less agreed upon to be the future of Sri Lankan rugby, in the sense that we have more advantage in terms of the sevens game, and if we really develop in this fashion, I think we really stand a chance to moving up and maybe performing well at the World Cup qualifiers as well. So there we go, a bit of rugby heading your way too. And a knock of 120 of Nishki Ahmed, which included 13 boundaries and 5 sixes, was the highlight of the under-19 inter-school cricket encounter between Zahira and St. Servatis Matara. So there we go, the schools cricket league also kicking off, and the under-19 matches are in full flow at the moment. So that's a wrap up about some of the sports stories that's been happening over the weekend. In terms of entertainment, we have the queen of the Sri Lankan cinema industry, mostly regarded as such. Malini Fonseca will be in the jury panel for the International Indian Film Festival, and that's something that we can all be proud of, because she's of course a very, very talented individual, member of parliament as well. And Malini Fonseca will add another prestigious feather to her cap when she participates as a member of the jury at the 43rd International Film Festival of India coming up in November. So there we go, that's a look at some of the entertainment news as well. Now going back to some of the international stories, we mentioned a bit about the political arena of especially concerning the US, about the anti-Islamic video that's been spreading around. Now in terms of the US elections update, we have a story regarding the US election spending. The latest round of monthly US presidential campaign fundraising reports were made public last week. The reports showed that for the first time since April, Barack Obama's campaign had outraised Mitt Romney's $140 million to 111.3. So during election season in the United States, the campaign committees are required to file periodic reports, and as we go along, so for the first time Barack Obama has pushed through his competitor, or rather his contender, Mitt Romney, in terms of the campaign spending. And a few other developments in the US elections. Obama challenges Romney on foreign policy. The president fired back at suggestions that he is weak with enemies and allies, saying that rivals should say whether he wants another war. And once again, another story, they picked the next US president, but they're not paying much attention. An AP poll spotlights campaign's challenge, how to lure Americans intent on voting who aren't watching the race closely. There's obviously a floating vote. I wouldn't say a majority of the vote, but then again, floating vote who are not very attentive, and this is what this poll is saying, that they're very impulse-driven voters rather than actually concentrating on the policies that these two contenders have to offer. And that's a wrap up about some of the headlines that's been happening. And we have some stories coming your way later on in the show. A few video clips of the New York Fashion Week. We took a look at this last week as well. Some interesting stories about a beard competition as well later on in the show. But before we do that, I think we will need to head on to a commercial break. And we will be back with a lot of stories. Also, the Emmys happening right now at the moment, and we're getting a live update, I would say. And the Emmys 2012, Maggie Smith won the Supporting Dramatic Actress Emmy for Downton Abbey, and then disappoints everyone by not showing up to insult everyone to their faces. Now that was the latest development. The Emmys are going on at the moment as we speak and as the show is going on. And earlier on in the awards ceremony, we've had Dancing with the Stars host Tom Bergen wins on his 5th try. This is particularly satisfying because Betty White always, apparently surpasses him in terms of these awards, and in our mixed martial arts classes, he says. So that's interesting. And also The Amazing Race adds to its streak of reality series with its latest Emmy win. Now, speaking about The Amazing Race, I mentioned this earlier as well. Now, in this year's format of The Amazing Race, we actually have two Sri Lankan born twins actually participating in The Amazing Race, and hopefully along the week we'll have more stories about them as well coming your way. So that's a very interesting development, because I think it's the first time that a Sri Lankan born person is taking part in The Amazing Race. And we'll have more stories, as mentioned earlier, right after this commercial break. Keep watching Good Morning Sri Lanka.